Two little boys, they were going to the school. In the evening coming home, said the biggest boy to the littlest boy, "Oh, can you throw a stone? Oh, can you throw a stone?" "Well, I can neither throw a stone, and little can I play at the ball. But if you come to the merry green ones, I'll try you a wrestling foe. I shall try you a wrestling foe." Good afternoon. Thank you. My name's Nathaniel Mann, and I'm a sound artist, a musician, and folk singer. And I'm one of the poets and artists and local academics and musicians who have been invited to spend some time in Otobong's installation, A Taste of Stone, exploring the presence of stone in our own work and our own research. So part of what I've been doing is looking at folk song and the presence of stone and stones as different metaphors within folk song. And I've also been looking at just different times and places that stones kind of overlapped with my own research and my own interests. One of the things that springs to mind that kind of overlaps the two is when I spent some time in the Faroe Islands in the North Atlantic. And so the Faroe Islands, for those of you who don't know, it's a small archipelago, somewhere between Scotland and Iceland, thrown out in the middle of nowhere. And they have a very strong mythology around stones up there. And they talk about the Huldufolk. And the Huldufolk translates as the hidden people, or as they translate it in kind of, just when you're chatting to people, the grey people. And the grey people inhabit the stones. And they're like a parallel society that have their own dogs and their own ferries and their own lives. And often when the mists roll in, the two societies kind of have a moment of mergence. And they're not, there are stories of them being malign and leading people off the edge of cliffs in the mist. And there's stories of them, guiding you home. But the interesting thing for me is that, so I was up there making a documentary film, and it became a kind of pet project of mine after we'd interviewed whoever we were talking to, mainly about the whale hunting they do up there. I would add a couple of extra questions about the Huldufolk, because it was something that really fascinated me, the people who live in the rocks. And still to today, if there's a big rock formation, they'll often divert roads around it rather than disturb these rocks, because if you disturb them, then you incur the wrath of the Huldufolk. And the older people we interviewed, the youngsters would say kind of, "Oh no, well that's a story that the older, it's an old myth." But the older people would say, "Oh yeah, the Huldufolk. Well, yeah, they used to be here, but when the electricity came, they went away. They were scared off. So it's not that they didn't ever exist. It's just now they've gone." And this is a little song. They have a little saying, because the Huldufolk are mischievous and they hide things. And they have a little saying which they'll utter if you can't find something, if it's been lost. They'll often attribute it to the Huldufolk having stolen it. Hulda, tulda, mulda. Hulda, yours. Yours is better than mine. Hulda, tulda, hulda, give me mine. You have yours, and yours is better than mine. So that's basically the translation of what they say up there. So when I first met Otobong, the thing I suggested to her was that as part of the research I could look at this book. This is a book published by the Pitt Rivers Museum in Oxford, and it's a book that I bought probably about 11 years ago. It's called Rock Music, and it's about natural resonant rock gongs and stones that exist across the world, and they're often sites that, similar to the Hulda folk, have some kind of spiritual or mythological connotation and history and stories attached to it. And this is a book that I saw and I picked up in the bookshop but never actually read. And so I came and read just one. It's basically a catalogue of different sites across the world and some of the stories that are attached to it. And I read just one to Otobong, and she said, oh, well, that's what you should do. You should just read it. So I'm going to read to you some of my favourites. Scotland, the Cradle Stone, Berghead, Grampian. Coordinates: 57 degrees, 42 minutes north, 3 degrees, 30 minutes west. Granite, 90 centimetres high, 50 centimetres wide, with cup-like hollows 10 centimetres wide by 5.7 centimetre deep. The stone is built into the wall of a burial ground called the Chapel Yard. The cup-like hollow has been produced by the children of Berghead, who are in the habit of striking the spot with a beach stone and then quickly putting their ears to the place when the sound of a rocking cradle, the crying of a child, and the crooning of an old woman hushing the child to sleep can be heard as if coming from a cavern deep underground. It's said that as far back as anyone can remember, the children of Berghead have been led to believe that all babies come from below this stone. And I'm told by Dr. Mackay that Nancy, the present midwife, always informs inquisitive children that she finds the babies there. So that's one from Scotland, but there are sites all over the world. And this is another particularly interesting one. And often they have some kind of supernatural or spiritual resonance with them, with these rock gong sites. Guernsey, megalithic tomb, La Roque-Casson, Vale Parish Schoolyard. 49 degrees, 29 minutes north, 2 degrees, 33 minutes west. Granite. This monument, originally perhaps the largest and finest in Guernsey, now sadly survives only as 2 upright slabs and a displaced capstone. The site was destroyed around 1800, providing enough stone to load a 150-ton ship, with sufficient leftover for locals. There were originally at least 9 capstones, but other structural details are not recorded. It's dated around 3,500 to 2000 BC. Excavations by Lucas in 1837 around the ruins produced fragments of late Neolithic and Beaker pottery, broken stone axes, and part of a decorated shale bracelet. La Roque-Casson was a large worked stone that had formed part of a grave passage. It was said that when it was struck, it had emitted a clear, ringing sound. The people of the Vale regarded it as something supernatural. Mr. Holcart, who owned the land in which the grave stood, was afflicted by a series of extraordinary disasters after its desecration. When he started to break up the tomb, every stroke of the hammer on the stone was clearly heard at the Vale Church a mile away. As soon as his house was completed, it burnt to the ground, with the death of 2 servants. 2 ships in which he was a shareholder were lost at sea carrying cargoes of stone. A new dwelling in Alderney was also burnt down. And finally, he was killed in a freak accident aboard ship. These incidents have been confirmed and verified by folklore expert Sir Edgar McCulloch. The remaining stones are called Pierre's Saints. There are no cut marks on the remaining stones, but they are resonant.